UX is Analytics Basics, Scrolling Data or Paginated Data. When you create a new analysis in Analytics, the default method of moving through the data in the table is to scroll up and down in the table using the scroll bar on the right side of the screen or using the scroll wheel on your mouse as I'm doing here. The column headers themselves are locked in place and the data scrolls up and down below and behind those headers. That same default scrolling function would be in place if you were to add a new table or a new pivot table to an existing analysis. In some instances, however, as in this particular situation, the data in the table is so wide that the width of the data exceeds the default width of the table, resulting in a horizontal scroll bar. That's really not something that you want to have to deal with. So in this situation, or in any other situation that you wish to work with, you might decide to edit the table properties to either make the table wider or to turn off the scrolling function altogether and turn this into a paginated report. From the Results tab of the analysis, which is what we're looking at here, all we need to do to see where we can make those changes and then subsequently make those changes is to locate the small gray XYZ button. It's the View Properties button on the table or pivot table as we see here. When I click that button, we're presented with the Table Properties screen. And this Table Properties screen, the very first selection, the Data Viewing selection, gives us the option of changing the method by which we roll through the data in the table, or allows us to change the width and height of the table. With the data viewing set at fixed headers with scrolling content, that's what allows me to scroll through that report. If I wish to keep that functionality, the scrolling functionality, then I probably need to change the maximum width of this particular report. Now, even though the numbers are not displayed in the field, the maximum width that is preset for these tables and pivot tables is a 600 pixel width of that report. If I wish to keep the scrolling, I need to change that maximum width to something greater than that, that will accept the full width of all the data columns I have in this report. I usually suggest something like 1,000 pixels or 1,200 pixels to start, and then you can see where you need to go from there. So I'm going to simply click in that maximum width field and type in 1200, meaning I want this report to be 1200 pixels wide, and I'll click OK. When I return to the screen, I can see that my report has been made much wider than it was, and it may or may not be a full 1200 pixels wide, but the more important thing is it is wide enough now so that there is no longer a horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of the table, and I can continue now to scroll through my report, seeing all the data that I want as I scroll through. So I can keep that scrolling version of the report. If I wished to have done so, I could also have just simply ignored the maximum width and turned this into a paginated report. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to click the gray XYZ button, the View Properties button again. That takes me right back to the screen that I was just on. Rather than concerning myself with the maximum width field here and trying to guess at how wide I need to make it, I could simply have changed this from a report where the headers were fixed and I could scroll through the content to a paginated report, content paging. So I'll make that selection. Notice that I'm no longer concerned with how wide the report's going to be. It's going to be just as wide as it needs to be, but I'll have page buttons at the bottom of the report, as you'll see when I click OK. When I click OK, the report then changes, and it's a little bit narrower, but notice that I can no longer scroll through the report. Those column headers are scrolling, they're moving with the report now. So I'm not scrolling through the report, I'm scrolling to the bottom of the first 25 rows of data that are in this table now. And I can now use the page buttons to go to the next page, next page, next page, or I can simply click the Show Me All the Pages button. And now I'm seeing all 357 rows of the data in this report, but I am not, and I am scrolling past the data but I have to scroll all the way to the top in order to see those column headers. Those column headers will scroll with the report now, and the data is no longer scrolling behind them. It's your choice which way to modify this report. You can either make it wider and retain the scrolling, or you simply turn it into a paginated report, in which case you're going to see the first 25 rows by default, and then have the option of maximizing the report to see all of the rows. Your choice. Some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. It's all your choice to make, and you can make that anytime that you wish, or anytime that you create a brand new analysis.